Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:36 on WMAL. It's Brian Neiman, Joe DeGenova, former U.S. prosecutor in the House this morning. Joined now by BRET BAIER, anchor of Special Report, Fox News Channel. Brett, we've been talking about the president's speech all morning long when it comes to Israel and a Palestinian state. Do you have any idea why he decided to make the speech now? And did the White House give any advance notice to the Israelis about what the president was going to say?
Good morning, guys. I think there was a sense inside the White House, from what we're hearing, that there was a moment to capitalize on the bin Laden mission and the Arab Spring and to move the ball forward in their mind, and that's why they did it. As far as notice to the Israelis, we've been told that there was one day and a call that went out saying this is what the president's going to say, not kind of a discussion about it, but this is what's going to happen. And the Israelis were put off by it and thought that there was a chance that it wouldn't happen the way that it was presented, and it turned out the exactly accurate. Everything we're getting this morning is that Prime Minister Netanyahu plans to confront President Obama, and that's how it's being characterized, preparing for confrontation.
Now, you've covered this story for a long time. I mean, the Democrats in the White House were saying that this has been a basic idea for years now. That's goes all the way back to the Clinton administration. It just was never talked about. I mean, even the Bush administration had it on the table. It was just never negotiated in public.
Yeah.
Is there truth to that?
Well, I mean, it had been talked about. You're right. No president had explicitly endorsed it. It's the first time a president as U.S. policy has endorsed it, number one. Number two, it turns around 2004's promise by President Bush that it wouldn't go back to the pre-1967 borders. The big issue here, I think, according to folks, experts and the Israelis, is the 8-mile stretch, the kind of center of the country, that they would have to defend under those borders. And while it is a starting point, it's not a place that they can go to much more negotiation, because they kind of put it all on the table there, according to them. We're going to have the PLO ambassador, the Palestinians representative, on the show tonight and ask him some tough questions about Hamas and Fatah and what the Palestinians are willing to put on the table.
Yeah, well, one of the things that the president said was that they have to recognize Israel in order for this to actually even move forward, which is a big hurdle to get over, first of all, before you even get into the 67.
I mean, it's hard to believe you start a negotiation with a part of one side not recognizing the other side.
Yeah, it is. Now, what do you expect from this meeting today, and after the meeting when they hold this joint press conference? Will they put on their best faces, or do you think there could be some tension there even in the press conference?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't think, Bibi Netanyahu is not known for hiding his emotions. So if there are frank discussions, as they like to say, behind closed doors, I don't think we're going to miss that body English.
So, Brett, Joe DeGenova here.
Hey, Joe.
I'm still puzzled by the timing of this.
Yeah.
I understand the Arab Spring, or whatever you want to call it, and I understand the killing of bin Laden, and he says, or people around him say, he has this big mo. I actually don't see the big mo, and I'll bet their internal polling shows a very, very conflicting set of American people's feelings about him. This seems to be a straightforward, in-your-face to the Israelis, just saying this is the way it's going to be, whether you like it or not. 24 hours notice, no discussion, no preliminaries. This is pretty tough stuff. This is actually quite amazing.
Yeah, well, it is quite amazing, but it does fit the pattern of how this administration really has dealt with the process to make it go forward, or in their minds, make it go forward. Remember, at the very beginning, when the president first took office, one of the first things he did was speak out against the settlement issue.
Right.
And that then, according to some, raised the bar, and thereby was expected. The Palestinians started at that point. Well, the U.S. is saying this settlement issue needs to get resolved, so we're not going to even start talking without, that being met. So I think it's a really interesting way, Joe, of handling negotiations. And,
I'll say
no better than anybody. How that goes.
And I got to tell you something. If he thinks Benjamin Netanyahu is going to bend, this is going to be one hell of a joint news conference.
Yes.
Well, we were talking, Brett, about how the timing of it, if you're Israel, if you ever were to agree to something like that, it would have been when, Egypt was still essentially with you and you had a strong defender in Mubarak. And now that Mubarak's gone and they're concerned about, well, do we really have that strong ally in Egypt right now? I would think that for the timing for this, if they would ever agree to it, this wouldn't be the time. They wouldn't want to figure out what's going to go on with Egypt before they would agree to anything like this.
Yeah, that's true, Brian. I also think that the administration, some people look at that and say this might have been the wrong move, because if anybody could get it done, if anybody could make painful concessions from the right side of the Israeli government, it's Benjamin Netanyahu. And he gave a speech in the Knesset. He went pretty far, but was willing, from all indications, to go farther. And I think, now might be in a defensive mode of pushing back.
Right. All right. Well, on another note, it was a tough week for Newt Gingrich. Are you clear on where he stands, even after he's done all these interviews, kind of explaining what he said on Meet the Press on Sunday?
I don't think anyone's fully clear.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the former speaker's clear. Exactly. I mean, the thing is what he said is what he said, and you could play it again, and then you could play the interview that he did with Greta Van Susteren. It's confusing. And then when he came out and said, any Democratic campaign that tries to use my statements on Meet the Press against a Republican candidate would be disingenuous, and those are his words.
All right, blaming the media for what he said, essentially.
It's hard to imagine a presidential campaign that got off to a rockier start.
Speaking of Greta, last night Sarah Palin was on her show, and she said that she has a fire in the belly. And is that just? We were thinking maybe she's had McDonald's, she had bad food last night, or is she? Is that still a possibility that's out there?
Yeah, I think you never know with Governor Palin, and I think a decision would have to come pretty quickly. And right now, all indications are that she's not going to run, but she keeps on putting those feelers out and those little teasers out, and eventually there's got to be a decision. Michelle Bachmann is in. She's going to jump into this race and will be a factor in Iowa and probably South Carolina as well.
Yeah.
So if Sarah Palin got in, that would crowd that part of the field.
All right, Brad. It's going to be an interesting news day today. We'll certainly be watching 6 o'clock tonight, special report. Thanks for your time, as always.
Have a good one.
Brett Baer, Anchor Special Report, Fox News Channel here on WMAL.